Welcome to the fastest daf in town, Tanil Masechtas Moed, Katan daf Chaf Aleph. We are going to begin on the bottom of Chaf Amud Beis, 3 lines on the bottom. So the Gemara gives the following story: a Meimar Shochiv Le Bar Berei, that his grandson had died. Kari Leha, so he ripped Kriya for him, and we were discussing this whole notion of Kriya. So Asa Berei Karab Apeh. So his son came and he ripped a second time in his presence. It says Rashi, Hadar a Meimar Kara Ba'ape Dibre. So Meimar ended up tearing Kriya a second time in front of his son. And then Idkar Demyushiv Kara. And he recognized that he was actually sitting down when he was tearing Kriya. And therefore, Kam Kara Mu'umad. And therefore he tore a third time, which answers our first question, TB 11. Madua Meimar Acher Shekara Beis Pamim Kar Shuv. It's because he recognized, you remember that he tore Kriya sitting down, you have to be standing. Armali Ravashi Lameimar Kriya de Me'umad Manolan Dechsev V'Yakom Iyuv V'Yikras Me'iloi. So it says clearly that Iyuv, he stood up when he tore Kriya. As we continue Chafal Manal. El Miata, so as the pasuk says regarding the dinim of chalitza, v'omad, that they stood, v'omar, and he said, lo chafatzti l'kachta, I do not want to marry this woman, I don't want to perform yibum. So hachinami, are you coming to tell me in that situation also, if the man would have done chalitza not standing, that it wouldn't work? But Tanya ben Yoshe ben Oymed ben Mute, we allow him to do it anyway. Even though the pasuk literally says "Amad," so we don't take that pasuk meaning that he literally was physically must be standing. He can be standing or sitting, whatever. So too l'chayro when it comes to kriya. So Amalina Hasam l'chsev v'yamoid v'yomer hachaksev v'yokom v'yikra. It says explicitly that he got up. Amar Rabbi Rachama menayin l'kriya shehi mu'umad. So he asked the same question, how are you supposed to be standing? Shnemar v'yakom iyo v'yikra. So he quoted the pasuk again because he stood up. Dilma milsi yetertahu de'avad. Maybe he did a little above and beyond. Dilo temahachi v'yagoyis es roisho hachinami. It says that he shaved his hair, his head. He shaved his hair off. So is that also something that one must do? Because Eve did it. So maybe we should also have to do that. El Mahacha. Rather, we went up v'yokem hamelach v'yikra es begadav, as it says in Sefer Shmuel Bet that the king got up and he rended his garments. So therefore, we see clearly that that's what you're supposed to do at standing. The Dilma Milsi Yeter to Ovid. Again, maybe he went above and beyond. The king did. Dilote Mahachi v'yishkav arza hachinami. It also says over there that he was lying on the ground. Abosanya Yoshev al Gabi Mita al Gabi Kise al Gabi Odaine. Rashi says that's a machteshes gadol, like a large chopper. Lo yatzedei chavaso. You have not fulfilled your obligation if you're lying down on all these comfortable things. Yom Rav Yochanan shlo kiyam kviyas hamita, because you have not been mekayim kviyas hamita. So Amalei ke'ein artza. Which what says Rashi, Mekulam Omru Afilu Yoshin Al Gabi Karka, even if you're sleeping on the ground, Lo Yotza Ad Shiyichba Mitasav Yeshua. You actually have to flip it over and sit on it. So Rashi says, Kain Arts a Kloimer Shikafa Mitasa V'Yoshev Le'Om Kriya Mu'umed. Okay, fine, you're supposed to turn over the bed and sit on it, but again, you're supposed to stand when it comes to Kriya. Tanabanan. Elu Devarim she'avil aser behen. These are the things that an avil is not allowed to do, which we discussed a lot of them when we spoke about the dinim of a mitzayra and a nidoi. So aser b'malacha, he's not allowed to do work. Rachitza, wash. Sicha, anoint himself. Tashma shmita, marital relations. Nilsa, sandal, wearing shoes. V'yaser likros b'tayra. He's not allowed to learn Torah. Navim, uksuvim, can't learn any of Tanakh. V'lishnos b'mishnah, v'medrash v'alachais. Rashas v'gadais, you can't learn Mishnah, can't learn Gemara, can't learn Halacha. So all these things he cannot do. V'im hayu rabim smichin lo enu nimna, which answers part of question 3. Question 3 asked, Me'ez oifen matzinu de avel Toich Zayin Mutter B'Talmud Torah. Where do we find that he's allowed to learn? That's in the event that the Rabbim need him. And since the Rabbim needs him to teach, so we allow him to do so even during Shiva. Umasa is a story, Mesa B'Noshu Rav Yosi B'Tzipari. The Rav Yosi's son died. V'nichnas l'beis medrash v'darish kol yom kulo. He was teaching Torah. So how could he do such a thing? Again, obviously because we understand that people needed Rav Yosi. Rabba Barbachana Isri Bey Milsa. He was in a Velis. Savar, he thought the Lola Mepika Pirka. He thought maybe he shouldn't go to the parak to learn Torah. That if people need you, then we cannot hold you back. When you're supposed to, you can still learn. Savar Ukmi a Moira away. He was thinking about putting in a Moira. Says Rashi, and a Moira is a Turgaman, a person who is able to shout out, because the Chachamim, they couldn't speak so loud, obviously before microphones, so this human microphone would shout it out. So Rav Tanya Yamed Turgaman. We're not allowed to have a Turgaman. He's allowed to learn Torah. So the question is, how are people going to hear what he says? So Kiha. The Sanya Masa is a story of Meis Benosh Rabbi Yehuda Bar Eloi. So Rabbi Yehuda Bar Eloi's son died. The Nichnas Beis Medrash. So he went to the Beis Medrash, was allowed to teach Torah. The Nichnas Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia. So he was also entered. V'Yasher Basido. He sat right next to him. The Lachash Hu Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia. And Rabbi Yehuda ben Eloi, he ended up whispering it to Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia. Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia with Turgaman. The Turgaman Shmiel Rabbim. So instead of him speaking directly to the Maturgaman, he spoke to another person, and then that person said it to the Maturgaman. Tanabon. Avil Gimel Yomim Rishainim. Someone who's in Veils for the first 3 days, also haniach tefillin. He's not supposed to wear tefillin. Umishlish v'elach from the third day and on, he could. Shlish mechlal mutter haniach tefillin. The third day is actually inclusive, and therefore he's allowed to wear tefillin even on the third day. Rashi says here, interesting, the Ikra Velos Enu Ela Beis Yomim. We saw before Ikra Velos says Gimel Yomim. Here, according to the sheet, at least it's 2 days. V'imbo Panim Chadashais. Normally we think of Sheva Brachos, which is very fascinating. The similar concept of Sheva Brachos, you having Panim Chadashos, Bolakan. So too, when it comes to Shiva, another element of 7, that even if a new person came, within this time, says Rashi, on Biyom Gimel, the third day, Einu Chaylitz Dev Rebbe Lezer, don't take your tefillin off, says Rashi. Afil Hachi Einu Chaylitz tefillin. Afgav the Ikul Amechash Dilma Amri B'Shnei Yomim Harishonim Namu Haniach tefillin. Maybe people are going to say, oh, he probably wore tefillin also all the days before. Maybe not supposed to, or maybe you're allowed to. So therefore, we're not chayshish of that, and he can keep them on day 3. Yeshua Oimer, that was the din of Rebbe Lezer, which we're going to end up saying that we're going to pass like him on day 3. You don't take off your tefillin, even if there's panim chadashos. Rabbi Yeshua Oimer, Avil Beis Yomim Harishayim Asal Hanech Tefillin. Misheni. Only it's also therefore on the first day, because the Sheni Bechlal Mutu Hanech Tefillin. So according to him, the Ikar Veils is actually only the first day. V'imbo panim chadashos chaylitz. If, let's say, the person comes now, it's on the second day, and you should take off the tefillin. Omer Rav Masna, my time Rabbi Lezer. So why does Rabbi Lezer say it's 3 days, no tefillin, and then after the 3 days, the third day rather, you put on the tefillin, but you don't take them off? Rabbi Lezer, so what's the reason? It says v'yitmu yemei b'chi evel. Moshe. So it says that it ended the days of mourning. Says Rashi, the mashma beis yomim. Yemei is mashma 2 days. So therefore it teaches us that the ikr is 2 days. Rav ein my time Rabbi Yeshua, that's 3. Dechsev v'achrisa kiyoim mar, that it will be like a bitter day, and therefore it's coming to tell you that it's really 1 day. Rabbi Yeshua nam yihok sev, you tell me Yemei, which is mashma 2 days. So Shani Moshe the Takif Avle. Because we're talking about Moshe Rabbeinu, so the element of Avelis obviously is greater because of the tremendous loss. Rabbi Lezer Nami Haksev Achriyasa Kiyamar, which is mashma 1 day. Where it says, okay, Iker Marira Chad Yomahu. It's true, the main level of bitterness is the first day. That doesn't mean that there isn't also the second day in which certain dinim apply. Omer ul halacha kabbaleza b'chalitza. The halachas are kabbaleza when it comes to on the third day, that if you're wearing them, don't take them off. The halacha Rabbi Yeshua b'hanacha. But the halacha is like Rabbi Yeshua when it comes to hanacha, namely on the second, even already on the second day, you should put them on. Says Rashi, b'sheni afilu mea palmim b'yoyim v'chiba panim chadashas chaylitz. That's his shita. Okay. What is he saying? On the second day, do you take them off or you don't take them off? You take them off and then put them back on. Even if they come many times. Yehuda ben Tema oimer chayetz maniach afil mea palm, even 100 times. Now let's see this Rashi one more time. B'sheni on the second day, afil mea palmim b'yoyim v'chi ba panim chadashas chayetz v'chi leika panim chadashas maniach. So when there are new people there on the second day, you should take them off. When they leave, you can put them back on. Rabbi oimer kivan she'aniach shuv einu chayetz. That once you take them off, put them on, you don't have to take them off. He said it was 3, says Rashi. Well, we saw previously in Chaf Amud Aleph, B'kfiyas Amita halacha katanak didan, Yomer Gimel Yomim Iker Avelus. That's actually for 3 days we saw. So as we continue to Chaf Aleph Amud Beis, how do we reconcile this seemingly this stira, this contradiction? So as we continue to Chaf Aleph Amud Beis, mitzvah shani. What does that mean? So Rashi says, Kolemer hayol mitzvah haniach tefillin. Since it's a mitzvah to wear tefillin, matzu haniach l'alter b'sheni. So even though maybe he holds the ikr's 3 days, but we're not going to avoid this person from wearing tefillin. So he won't wear the tefillin on the first day, but on the second day he will. Tanaban. Avel gimel yaman harishayim. The first 3 days aser b'malacha. Not to do work. Even if you get your livelihood from charity, you still cannot collect the first 3 days. You can collect privately. We talked about before using this pestle, using it's actually machlokas. Could you use a pelech? Whether you can actually use a spindle rather. And we ended up saying the halacha is bein be'evan, bein be'pelech, because we're actually lenient, right? That you could be toive, you could weave not only al yirecho on the thigh, which everyone holds, but even be'pelech or be'evan, even with a stone. Okay, so it says over here that your wife could do it for you. Tanoban. Avel gimel yomim rishayim, the first 3 days, enu hayach beisa avel. He should not go into another person's home who's sitting shiva to console him. But he can go afterwards. However, he doesn't go and sit with everyone else. He sits with the people who are mourning, because he's also mourning. The first 3 days we don't greet, says Rashi. Okay, let's go weiter. Mishloish v'yad shiva, from the 3rd until day 3 to 7, meishiv enu shoyel. So he could respond, but he doesn't initiate. Mekan v'el shoyel meishiv kedarko. After shiva's over, he could even initiate greetings. The first 3 days you can't greet. Rabbi Kiva's son died. Nichnasu kol Yisrael, everyone came. This pidum hesped gadol, there was a huge eulogy. B'shas b'tirasan, at the time of their parting, Amad Rabbi Kiva al safsel gadol, he stood up on a large bench. V'yamar achenu beis Yisrael, shimu, please listen. Afilu shnei banim chasanim menuchim hu b'shvil kavod shasisem. That you should know that even, let's see how it, if it says that anything over here. Even literally 2 brothers, chasanim, that are menuchim who they've been consoled b'shvil kavod, because of the honor that you have done for them. V'im b'shvil kiva basam, but if you came because of me, hari kama kiva b'shuk. So you didn't have to come because of me, but as Rashi says, kavarti menucham ani meroiv kavod shasisimli. So again, you did a tremendous amount of kavod for me, but so Rashi says, shul halachtim l'nachamon. You shouldn't have come to console me, but nonetheless, this is what he said. This interesting statement. Elokach martem. This is what you should say. Taras elokah b'liboy. The kol shekain, and certainly shescharchem kafel, that you will have a double amount of reward. Says Rashi, shel kavod hatayr basim. You came for kavod hatayra. L'chu l'batechem l'shalom. Go to your home in peace. Now, we clearly see that he initiated greeting. He shouldn't have done that. Maran says, Kavod Rabbim Shani, because he was greeting the Rabbim, therefore he was allowed to do so, which goes back to question 3b, the Eza Ofen Metzina Lo Hetel Shil Shalom, for if you're Kavod Rabbim, to greet the Rabbim, that is allowed. Megimel V'Yad Zayin, as we said, from days 3 to 7, Meishvin Shoyel, so he can respond, but he shouldn't initiate greeting. After the 7 days, he could speak normally. It says, if you find your friend within 30 days, you should say consoling words. You shouldn't greet him, even within 30 days, not 7. After 30 days, you could. After the 30 days, you no longer say Divrei Tanchumim because his veilus, for the most part, is over after the 30 days. Mesa Ishto, if his wife dies, V'nosi Isha Cheres, and he married someone else, Einu Rashai L'chanas L'Beiso L'Daber Imoi Tanchumim. You're not allowed to go into his house and speak words of Tanchumim. Says Rashi, if let's say he married a woman within 30 days, it says he didn't have children, so you're not allowed to console him. Because it'll make the other woman feel bad, which is a very fascinating concept, even though you're not doing it to make her feel bad, but inevitably that's what will end up happening. And therefore, again, in the event that a person's wife died and he ended up marrying within a 30-day span, you're not allowed to say anything complimentary, especially in front of his wife, his current wife, because it'll be hurtful to her. Matzu b'shuk armulo b'safa rafa. If you find him in the marketplace, then you could speak to him like in a quiet tone, with a kavod roish, with a heavy head. So what do you mean 7 days? It's 30 days. So I'm Rabbi Yidi Barabin, hu shoyel b'shalom acherim. So he went to greet others. Shacherim shruyim b'shalom. In other words, if they aren't mourning, then it's okay. Acherim ein shalom b'shalomo shehu enu shol shalom. Okay, let's look at this Rashi. Kloimer teretz hadik tani mikan v'elch shoyel kedarka b'tayich shloishim yoim, that you could speak even within 30 days. Dehu shoyel b'shalom acherim, because he's asking how other people are doing. How are you doing? Shein shruyin b'shalom. V'atani b'soich lamed yoim enu shoyel b'shlomo. When are you not allowed to say greetings? Ein acherim shoyel b'shloimim. It's not when other people are being greeted. So, in other words, let's say it again. Hu shoyel b'shalom acherim. If he's greeting other people, then shacherim shruyin b'shalom. So, in that situation, others could greet him. Acherim ein shoyel b'shlomo shehu enu shrui b'shalom. Referring to this Avel. The fact that this is responding, Machlal d'shalina le. It sounds like people are greeting him too. Lo yadeh. The answer is they don't know perhaps the halachos. They're not knowledgeable about these laws. Hihachi hasam nami. So in that case, we should say also here within 3 days. No hasam maidulhu. That they do know. However, loy mahadeluhu. Hacha lo tzarach le'udinuhu. This you didn't need to tell them. Says Rashi, Hasam Moedilhu. Hadetani kol gimel yomim asa b'shul shalom. Avol Moedilhu, you should let them know the avilhu v'loy mahadilhu. So in other words, like this. Within the first 3 days, you should tell them. However, after the 3 days, you no longer have to tell them if they're not aware. Or minhu hamaitzias chavero avil b'tayich yud beis chaydish. It's 12 months. Medarmi v'tanchumim ve'enu v'shel b'shlomo. L'yachi beis chaydish shel b'shlomo ve'enu medarmi imo tanchumim. Medarmi imo minat sad. You should speak to them on the side. So anyway, the point is, this is a huge stira. It sounds like Avelis is 12 months, not 30 days, as far as greetings. So Amra Meir Hamaitzes Chaveru Avil Lachiyad Beis Chaydish. If you find someone after the 12 months, Umadabri Imo Tanchumim Umahadar V'Daima, because you're not supposed to say Divri Tanchumim after the 12 months. It's Adam Shenishbar Ragu, a person who broke his leg, V'Chaysa, and he got healthy. Matzuraifa, a doctor finds him. V'Yarmelo Klach Etzli, you should come to me. Shani Shaivra Ve'er Pena, because let me break it again, and then I'll heal you. Kedei sheteda semanim shli yafin. I want to show you that I'm a great doctor and I'm able to heal you. So the point is that this person has already gone through the motions of the healing process, and therefore you should not anymore say divri tanchumim, because that's actually only going to make that person feel bad again, and that's not okay. But anyway, the question is it 12 months or 30 days? Hasamnami Yadabri Imo Tanchumim Minatzad. Fine. Enachinami. So you can also do it that way. Imo Tanchumim Kedarko. Madabri Imo Minatzad. So this is coming to tell us a very important fundamental din that, as Rashi says, Enu Shoel B'Shlomo Agyud Beis Chaydish. When it comes to the passing of one's parents, that level of avails is the most serious. And therefore, that is a 12-month period. However, when it comes to Sharkroivim, other relatives, then the din is, it is for 30 days. Okay, we're going to stop here. Let's see a couple more questions. Question 4. Mimatai mutu lachem lishol b'shalom avel. So we said, if it's a parent, only after a year. When it comes to the other 5 relatives, it's 30 days. TA 12. Elu devarim mivorim bebraisa. What are these? The 3 things that are in the braisa. Shenimnu min avel begimel yimei avelos rishen bilvad. That they apply for the first 3 days. So one is, as we say on the top over here, is asiyas malacha. Avel gimliyanim rishayim aser b'malacha. So that's one answer. This is TA 12. So one answer is malacha. The second answer is halicha el beis ha'avel. That the first 3 days is not allowed to go to someone else who's sitting shiva. And lastly is Shila Shalom, greeting. So those are the 3, and they're right next to each other. Fine. TB 12. Madino shel avil le'inyan Shila Shalom chutz me'aviv me'imai. And he says, not your parents. So it's talking about the other 5, which is typically is only 30 days. Be'ir es chiluki hadinim b'zeh. So I only wrote myself that I got half credit, because these are always hard. Explain all the chiluki dinim. So this is what they wanted you to know. B'tol shlosha, within the first 3 days, as we said, is aser b'shil shalom. That you can't do. Chutz mekabed rabbim, as we said, is an exception. Megimel b'yad zayin, from day 3 to 7, meishav shoyel, you cannot initiate. Mezayin v'yad shloishim shoyel v'enacherem shu'alim b'shlomo. You could greet, but other people should not be shoyel b'shlomo. So you could initiate, but people should not say anything to you. Enacherem shu'alim b'shlomo. Ad kan.